Hey everyone, and welcome to the video. In today's video, we're going to dive deep into the latest wintry weather impacting the United States and Canada. We have a lot to talk about, from snow and ice to widespread cold air, and we'll also be discussing whether a warm-up is on the horizon and just how high temperatures might climb. Additionally, we'll take a look at the long-range forecast to see what's in store as we head toward the end of February and the start of March. Now let's take a look at what's happening across the country. As of this Wednesday evening, we are seeing a significant drop in temperatures across the plains. In some areas, temperatures have plummeted to about 50 to 55 degrees below normal for this time of year. That is an absolutely massive departure from what is typical, and it's creating some dangerously cold conditions. As we move into the overnight hours and wake up on Thursday morning, February 20th, a vast portion of the northern and central plains, as well as the Midwest, will be experiencing extreme cold, with temperatures dropping into the double-digit sub-zero range. The coldest areas will likely be in states such as Minnesota, Nebraska, and western Iowa, along with portions of northern Kansas, where actual air temperatures, without factoring in wind chill, will be between 15 and 25 degrees below zero. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Once you add even just a slight breeze into the mix, wind chill values will become dangerously low. With winds of just 5 to 10 FA, we could see wind chills dropping to around 25 to 35 degrees below zero across a large portion of the north central United States. This bitterly cold air will extend all the way down to northern Texas, parts of Arkansas, and even northern sections of Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee. With such widespread and severe cold, it's extremely important to take precautions if you have to be outdoors. If you're heading out for work or school, make sure to bundle up in multiple layers, covering any exposed skin. In conditions like these, frostbite can occur in as little as 30 minutes, particularly in the northernmost regions affected by this Arctic outbreak. Moving out west, the cold air is just as significant, especially across eastern Montana, where temperatures will be sitting around 10 to 15 degrees below zero by Thursday morning. Eastern Wyoming and eastern Colorado will also see air temperatures dropping below zero, while the Rockies will experience morning lows in the single digits and teens. Even in Southern California and Southern Arizona, including cities like San Diego, Los Angeles, Phoenix, and Flagstaff, temperatures will be noticeably cooler than what is typical for this time of year. Wind chill values across the western U.S. will also be incredibly low as we head into Thursday morning. Eastern Montana and eastern Wyoming could see wind chills around 25 to 30 degrees below zero, and eastern Colorado will experience similar conditions, particularly along the Front Range. Meanwhile, over in the eastern U.S. areas with deeper snowpack, especially in places like western Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and upstate New York, are holding on to much colder air. The heavy snowpack in these regions is acting like a freezer, keeping temperatures significantly colder than surrounding areas. While locations just outside of snowpack may see temperatures in the single digits or teens, the areas with deeper snow cover will likely remain below zero through the morning hours on Thursday. Wind chills in these regions will be around 10 to 20 degrees below zero. So once again, anyone heading outside should dress appropriately to prevent frostbite and hypothermia. Looking at the broader weather pattern across the country, we continue to track a winter storm that is bringing snow impacts to portions of Virginia, particularly in the eastern part of the state, as well as southern Maryland, Delaware, and even into North Carolina, where a mix of freezing rain and sleet has developed. Meanwhile, further south into South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida, the system is primarily producing rain as it moves offshore. Out west, a new storm system is bringing heavy precipitation to the Pacific Northwest, with both rain and snow falling across Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. As we move into Thursday, snow will expand into portions of Idaho, Nevada, Utah, Wyoming, and Montana. Given how cold it is, much of this snow will be on the lighter, fluffier side, which can accumulate quickly. By Thursday night and into Friday, conditions across much of the U.S. will start to quiet down, with high pressure dominating the central and eastern regions. However, while this will lead to clearing skies, it will also allow for radiational cooling, meaning the colder temperatures will stick around for a bit longer. Precipitation-wise, by Friday evening, the heaviest rainfall will be focused along the coastal southeast and the Pacific Northwest. Areas from Seattle to Portland could see around an inch of rain through the end of the week, with higher elevations picking up several inches of snow. In the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic, there will be some light snow chances, but nothing too significant. However, areas near the Great Lakes, particularly in northwestern Indiana and western Michigan, could see some lake effect snow bands setting up, bringing a few inches of fresh accumulation. Heading into the weekend, a shift in the weather pattern begins to take shape. While much of the U.S. will still be on the chilly side, temperatures will start to moderate. This warming trend will be slow but steady, and by the final week of February, milder air will begin mixing in across the lower 48 in southern Canada. The most significant warm-up will be out west, though higher elevations will still remain relatively cold. On top of the bitter cold, we've also had a significant amount of snow dropping over the last few days. This is what the observed snowfall totals look like as of 7 a.m. this morning, and some of these numbers are pretty impressive. We had initial snow swath move through the Mountain West, and then a secondary wave fired up, dumping snow across Nebraska and Kansas. Yesterday, that snowstorm pushed into the Tulsa region, hit parts of Missouri, and even slammed into northern Arkansas. Springdale, Arkansas checked in at nearly 10 inches of snow, which is a huge deal for that area. From there, the system kept moving, hitting Tennessee, Kentucky, continuing into parts of the southeast. And as of this morning, snow is still falling in those regions, but we're not done yet. This system is still pushing east. And later today, we're expecting snowfall to spread into parts of North Carolina and Virginia. So this whole setup is thanks to the polar vortex. And if you've been following my updates, you know, this has been building for a while. Initially, it started off as a stretching event, meaning it was just elongating, but then things got serious when it actually split. That's when we knew we were in for some major impacts. And right now you can see exactly where that polar vortex is sitting. It's right over the Dakotas and Minnesota. Over the next 24 to 48 hours, it's going to settle in over Iowa and Nebraska. And that's where we'll see some of the coldest temperature anomalies of this entire event. So a big chunk of that frigid air is also dipping straight into the deep south, which is why we're looking at widespread freezes and record-breaking temperatures across such a massive portion of the country. Now, if you're out west, you're not feeling this at all. This Arctic blast is staying completely east of the Rockies, but for everyone caught in the middle of it, it's an absolute deep freeze. And the numbers are staggering. We're talking about 40-degree below average temperature anomalies in some areas. When you see temperature departures that extreme, you know this is a major event. And the thing is, it's not going anywhere fast. Snow is also going to continue to be a big story this afternoon. We'll see additional snowfall moving into eastern Kentucky. And from there, it's going to slide into the Charlotte region, the Raleigh-Durham area, and even Virginia Beach. And this could end up being a historic snow event for Virginia Beach. They could be looking at their biggest snowfall in 15 years, with some spots approaching double-digit totals. That's a pretty rare setup, especially for a coastal city that doesn't typically see this level of snowfall. Further south, we'll transition into a mix of ice and cold rain. But along the East Coast, it's all about the snow, and it's going to keep piling up. Looking ahead to tomorrow morning, we have another weak system, a little clipper. That's going to swing through the Great Lakes in the Ohio Valley. This one won't be anything major, but it could drop a dusting to maybe a couple of inches in spots across Michigan, Ohio, and West Virginia. So nothing too intense, but still enough to keep the winter weather around for a little longer. But the real story, that Arctic air mass, we've got a massive high pressure system settling in. And under that dome of high pressure, we're expecting record-breaking cold across a huge portion of the country. Tomorrow morning alone, we could see up to 78 daily record lows being completely crushed across the lower 48. And if you look at where the cold is setting up, it's centered right over the Central Plains. Nebraska, Oklahoma, and Texas are about to get absolutely slammed with brutal cold. In fact, Oklahoma City could see 5 straight days of record-breaking cold, which is an incredibly rare event. Even places in West Texas that usually stay relatively mild in the winter are looking at single digits and teens. And it doesn't stop there. The deep freeze is reaching all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Lake Charles, Louisiana could drop into the mid-20s, and even the Florida Panhandle is getting a taste of this Arctic air. This is an incredibly powerful system. And once that kind of cold air gets locked in, it takes a while to let go. By Friday morning, the Arctic air will still be dominating. The Southeast will be feeling it. The Mid-Atlantic will be feeling it. And even some coastal areas that don't usually get this cold could be breaking records. We're talking about widespread single digits and teens stretching from the Ohio Valley to Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, and beyond. And while we won't see as many records by Saturday, it's still going to be well below average for late February. But now let's talk about what happens after this deep freeze, because there's a dramatic shift coming. By the time we hit the weekend and early next week, the pattern completely flips. Instead of Arctic air, we shift into a zonal flow, which allows the jet stream to lift north. And once that happens, the Arctic air retreats back into Canada where it belongs. And in its place, we get a huge warm-up. Temperatures will surge well above average across the Southwest, the South, and even parts of the Midwest. By early next week, places in Arizona will be approaching 90 degrees, which is a massive swing from the cold we're dealing with right now. The deep south will be back into the 70s and 80s, and it'll start feeling like spring again. And just look at how quickly this happens. By Wednesday, we go from record-breaking cold to above average warmth almost everywhere. So to sum it all up, we're dealing with an incredibly strong Arctic blast right now, bringing record-breaking cold, widespread freezes, and heavy snow to parts of the country that don't normally see this level of winter weather. But as we head into next week, we take a complete 180-degree turn, and temperatures surge well above normal as the Arctic air retreats. This is going to be one of the most dramatic warm-ups we've seen in a long time. That's your update for today. If you found this helpful, drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned for more updates. I'll be tracking everything before, during, and after the storm. So make sure you don't miss the next update. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.